Welcome back to Talking Devils, brought to you by talkingdevils.co.uk. I'm your host, Keane, and this is our Friday podcast here with former Manchester United players Lee Lawrence and also Phil Marsh. And we're here to talk all things Manchester United here today. We're going to review the Everton game, but also we have something a bit different here tonight. So I have tasked the two lads to pick their all-time Manchester United 11s, but there's a twist. You can't have more than one player from the same nation. So the two lads have been scratching their heads all day today and picking their 11s today. So as always, guys, do smash a like in the video, hit that subscribe button, get them comments in below, and let us know what your 11s be when the lads do pick their 11s. But we are here to talk all things Manchester United. But look, I suppose it's been a week and since we all caught up with each other. So first of all, Lee, how's your week been? How's everything been going?
Excellent week, mate, to be honest. The match on Saturday, believe it or not, I only got to watch the first half as my lad had a gymnastics competition. So I left it till the latest. I got the first half in, and then I actually only watched the second half the day after. But yeah, we've been busy this week. Been a great week. Hopefully, the results start turning for us in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, hopefully, hopefully there's more kind of positive things to come, especially in the case of Man United. I think the last kind of week has been, I suppose, if you're a United fan, you're kind of mulling over the result and the performance. Like as you said, Lee, you always seen the first half and you seen the second half next day. It was a game that was really a tale of two halves. But we will elaborate that kind of later on in the show. Phil, how's the form? Obviously you've been in your own situation, recovering from COVID, been back playing football. How you been? How's your situation been?
Yeah, not bad, mate. As I said, my first full week back in work, so just getting myself back sort of into my normal routine. Managed to play 20 minutes on the weekend football. Obviously, not done anything for a couple of weeks after having COVID, so just good to get back out there and obviously, back training and stuff. So just obviously want to, try and get back into my usual sort of routine. But yeah, feeling good and hopefully, as Lee just touched on there, United's performances can sort of start improving. Although the run of fixtures that we've got now coming up are going to sort of be a massive test, and I think it could obviously define the season in terms of these next 5 or 6 games. Obviously, some really big games coming up, but you look forward to them big games. So hopefully, we can pick up some good results.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you look at this October-November period, there's, I suppose, this run that we're coming into is season defining. Look all the teams we're playing against in the league and in Europe as well. So, look, as Lee said, massive period coming up, and hopefully we can kind of put everything to bed, I suppose, in the last couple of weeks in terms of performances, and we can kind of look forward and really try and make a push, because I think this run is going to be season defining, not just for the fans, not just for the team, but for the manager as well. So I think, players and manager are both under pressure at the moment. This run of fixtures to come, I think this will show really where we're at in terms of title contention, and it'll show where we are in terms of Europe as well, with the double header against Atalanta in the Champions League, who are a quality side, I think, by many accounts. So be very interesting to see how we deal with this fixture list and how Ollie utilises his squad. Speaking about Ollie utilising his squad, last weekend against Everton, one all draw at Old Trafford, Ollie made many changes to his side. The three of us were here on the podcast last Friday, and we all picked predicted 11s. I remember we texted into the chat 11:30 Saturday morning, and we're like, Jesus, none of us got the 11 right. We're all wide off the mark, and Ollie threw a spanner into the works. Obviously, Ronaldo gets rested. That's the big headline. Edison Cavani comes in on the back of a good performance in the Champions League. Anthony Martial kind of comes in to kind of help redeem himself as well in the Manchester United squad. And by the accounts, as you mentioned, it was kind of a tale of two halves. First half, kind of, I suppose we played quite well. The one-touch passing was brilliant at times. I thought, Mason Greenwood, for me, especially the bright spark in that first half, really looked dangerous. Cavani's pressing, I was really impressed by that. He was all over the pitch. Fred, by all accounts, I say in the first half, played quite well. I know I'm harsh on him at times, but he did play well in that first half. Got about. He's breaking up play, releasing the ball quickly. But I want to get your thoughts, guys, on just the whole game in general, because obviously it's a tale of two halves, and I suppose we go in full detail. Lee, talk to me about the nutshell and kind of what you thought of our overall performance over 90 minutes.
I thought great game for the neutrals. Absolutely great game. Like I say, it was a bit broke up for me because I watched the first half one day and the second half the other. I thought we started off really, really well, really quick. We had great chances again early doors with the Marsh header, which he should have put away. The Cavani header again. I mean, don't get me wrong, we conceded quite a few chances too. The first half was an open game, but yeah, I thought we did well in that first half. The second half, it was I watched it back the second day, and I thought, let's see when Everton get the first chance on goal, because I've seen a few things over, the last couple of hours when I was away, saying that we absolutely got slaughtered in the second half. But the second half I watched, I don't think we got slaughtered at all, to be honest. I don't think we conceded a chance until up to the goal. Again, Fred, massive cock up for me for the goal. Should have been put in that play. He had 2 attempts to put him in Rolls head of the stands. He didn't do it. But I don't think Fred had a bad game whatsoever. I think he made the mistake for the goal. It happens. But like I say, I think I've seen something on the internet about his stats, because I was interested about the stats, what he put in, because again, I seen him getting absolutely murdered on Twitter. Like I said last week, I think sometimes he does get made the scapegoat, and his stats are up there with the best midfielders on the park that day. Just that silly mistake what he made, cost him his reputation again, really. I think we did enough to win it. I think when the goals we conceded, I think the spatial awareness of the defenders was poor, from the free kick off Bruno. The getting back, when you watch McTominay, he just basically jogged from Everton's 18-yard box all the way back. Luke Shaw gets pulled out, ball watching, which leaves a massive gap on the right-hand side where he didn't need to go. We had players there. He could have caught up with the centre forward. Unfortunately, like I say, spiritual awareness at that time wasn't there. And it was a great finish. And to be honest, we was lucky towards the end with the goal that was disallowed. Again, for me, the same problem, spatial awareness again. Varane brought out to the ball watching, left a massive gap again on the right-hand side. Very lucky. But overall, I thought the game itself was a great game. It was a great watch. I enjoyed it. I think we showed, again, in glimpses, what a team we could be. Some of the play we do in patches, especially that first half, we look like world beaters. It's just putting it together for 90 minutes, which we're struggling to do at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I think you're seeing consistently this season is the performance over 90 minutes is never really there. As you said, it's in patches, whether it's after the 68th minute mark, we start blitzing teams, or we start off well and then we fade, and then in say like the final phase of the game, we come back into it. I think it's not a sustained level of like possession, sustained attacks. I think that's where sometimes we faltered this season in terms of games where we drop points. I completely agree in the sense with Fred. I thought, like, look, there was times where he did play well. He broke up the play very well. He got about. And look, to be fair, he probably should take the yellow card, for the goal. He should put Demarai Gray over the sideline. Roy Keane, my namesake, if that was him, a midfielder like that, Keane takes that yellow card. Do you know what I mean? I think you look at players like that, they do take that yellow card. I think more experienced midfielders may do that. I think that shows Fred's probably lack of experience in certain situations, because he's not a holding midfield player. He's more of a box. So I think that's where maybe his lack of experience. Again, I think I said like in quite well between Cavani and Greenwood. I thought it was quite good, in terms of their interchange and movement. And then you look at like Bruno, the way he was dropping deep and picking passes and really, getting influence in the game. He was doing that quite well at most times. But I think, again, as you mentioned, like, the counter-attack seems to be our Achilles heel this season. when you look at the contrast last season, we were one of the best counter-attacking teams in England, and now we're getting a new defensive coach that's in there with Eric Ramsey, and the fact that we've Kieran McKenna work on that aspect of the game. Hopefully, over this international break, we can kind of in these next kind of couple of weeks, and we can kind of see that same type of goal, because that seems where teams seem to be catching us in the middle of the park. Between that McTominay and Fred partnership on the break, because they're getting dragged out of position. And so look, hopefully we can definitely, get that. Hopefully, with this run that comes now, that we do have, a sustained period this season. Yes, sustain that when they're coming up. They need that. They can iron this out over the international break, tactically on the training pitch. And hopefully everyone comes back fully fit, and firing, coming into this next phase of the season. And Phil, what are your overall thoughts on the game itself? Obviously, has come in for a lot of criticism recently, but for me, I thought it was one of his better games in a Man United shirt in quite some time. I thought he was dangerous in delivering good crosses into the box. Were you happy with the overall defensive performance from some of our players, the likes of the Wan-Bissaka and Rashford as well?
Yeah, I think obviously it was a as we've mentioned, it was a game of two halves for me. I think the first 20 minutes I thought we started really bright, looked like the only team really who was going to create anything, and thought we looked quite solid. Didn't really give them anything to sort of feed off. But for me, I was a little bit sceptical. Obviously, seeing the starting team, the likes of Ronaldo not starting, and obviously Martial playing. A little bit concerned really about obviously how the game was going to pan out. But I think in that first half we did create quite a few opportunities, and maybe could have gone in at least 1 or 2-0 on another day. But yeah, I just think second half, I think that what we've just touched on there in terms of Fred and somebody like Roy Keane taking a yellow card in that situation, I just think at the moment, because we're not putting that sort of complete performance together, and we're just playing well in bits and bats, it's a little bit frustrating for supporters, because obviously you want the team to be playing the way they was in the first half for more sustained periods of time. In football, it doesn't happen sometimes, but I just worry at the moment. I think with the likes of Harry Maguire and the leaders that we've got defensively, we just seem to be a little bit susceptible to the counter attacks and not being able to see a game out properly. You need them experienced and big players that can get you over the line. And as I say, you're not going to win the game sometimes 2 or 3 goals. It might just be a 1-0. And I think that would have been a good result for us against Everton if we could have seen that game out and won 1-0. But in the end, obviously, they got the goal on the counter attack and could have won it sort of late on. And I just think playing for a club like Manchester United, you've got to sometimes grind out a result and just take a 1-0. And I just don't really feel confident at the moment with sort of us being able to do that in sort of some of the games where we're not going to be sort of firing on all cylinders, which is, I wouldn't get overly worried about it, because, a lot of new players and players who probably haven't played a lot of football come in against Everton. So, that's to be expected. But, as a fan, we want to be competing for the big prizes, and the teams that do that are the teams that can inevitably, win ugly at times, be able to, have different sort of ways, there's different ways to skin a cat. And I think at the moment we're sort of very sort of one-dimensional in terms of if we're not scoring 2 and 3 goals, we're always looking to be, susceptible to conceding. But, hopefully we can sort of improve that and sort of, results start going our way a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing you mentioned there is we don't score a couple of goals sometimes, and it does kind of hinder us. Like, one interesting stat is this season we haven't went 2-0 up in one game season. It's always been kind of 1-1, and then we score a couple. or we draw the game. So I think for us, I think getting over that mental barrier of kind of not putting a game away would be absolutely fantastic, and no better to happen than these next couple of games that we're going to play in now, like against our biggest rivals. Like Leicester are, they're going to be a hard one into, especially the fact that they're out of form in these last couple of weeks. They're going to want to make a statement and get a result against Manchester United. So these next couple of weeks are going to be very interesting to see kind of how we cope with the, I suppose, the overall pressures, but also trying to implement our own strategy and our own game plan. I think that's going to be very interesting and very important, coming into these, next couple of weeks. On the back of that, 5-6 games in the league. Obviously, we've Leicester, we've Chelsea, Watford with the new manager Ranieri coming in, Man City, Liverpool. Look at them games, I suppose this kind of next month or 6-week period. Lee, how confident are you that we come away with more near enough maximum points in these next couple of weeks, considering that we look at that peak between Liverpool and Manchester City, two levels of very high performance. Do you think, because we've done it in the past on the Solskjaer, that we can step up again on the big stage?
Yeah, I think we've always got the potential to step up against any team, no matter who they are within the world. Again, we say it all the time on the podcast. We're Man United. It's part of the DNA. I think the main part is don't drop points. You look at the possession stats the last few weeks, especially against Everton, we're 72% possession. We need to start turning that possession really. We need to be more clinical and, having them products. For me, we've been ranting and raving a bit about the midfielders over the last few weeks, but I'm beginning to think too that does the forward players not need to, start being a little bit more clinical? The amount of possession and the amount of gameplay we have in games, the firepower we've got up front, your Ronaldo, your Cavani's, Greenwoods. Do we not need to start turning this possession and turning these shots and things like that into goals? That could be another main reason why, we're drawing games, we're not coming out with games what we should be doing. I think if we've got we get them players on form, we start playing like a team. Again, I think that's a big thing which we still have only showing glimpses of. We're not doing it like I say for the full 90 minutes. But I think when that comes, I can't see a reason why we can't get all 3 points, at least a point off these big teams, your Cities and your Liverpools. It's on paper, the names we've got are as good as anybody. We just need to start showing it on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. And Phil, I'm just going to come to you just to counter that as well. Marcus Rashford scored 2 goals in his first game behind closed doors in a 60-minute game against Blackburn. Could his return be a welcome and chip that we got a Solskjaer? His goal scoring record in these big games throughout his Man United career. Is Marcus Rashford going to be that difference maker in these next couple of weeks?
I hope so. I mean, Marcus Rashford is a fantastic player, as he's just mentioned. He's always done well, really, in the big games, especially against City. Over recent years, I think he's going to be a massive bonus to have back in the group. He's somebody who's very direct. On his day, he's unplayable, and he's one of the best players in the world for me when he's on form. He is a bit of a frustrating player at times, Marcus, but overall, I think he's going to be a massive positive for Ollie to have him back in the squad. And I just think, with the firepower that we've got, although they haven't all been, playing to the maximum potential and maybe not as well as we would be, I think to have someone like him coming back will heighten that, in terms of, competition. And, we've got a different option there with Marcus Rashford. And if he's fully fit, then for me, he's going to be a massive threat for the teams we're going to be playing against. He's slightly different to some of the other players we've got in terms of he threatens in behind with his pace. He's quite direct and he can score a goal from nothing. Looking forward to seeing him back in the team. As I say, a massive Marcus Rashford fan, and I think he's going to be somebody. I wouldn't want to put too much pressure on him. Obviously, he's been out for quite a while, and again, he might take a couple of games to get back up to speed a little bit. But I think it's a massive bonus for the club to have him back and in and around the dressing room as well. He's obviously a massive figure, and he's liked by all of the lads. You can see that.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at his record in the big games, he's someone who's going to be a boost to Manchester United's dressing room. And look, when you look at his last 2 seasons, really plagued by injury. When you look at his back injury, shoulder injury, and ankle ligament injury, he's produced numbers like off the scale numbers in them 2 seasons, like getting 20 goals in both seasons. And like last season, it was 20 goals and 16 assists with all them injuries. You're looking at a fully fit and firing Marcus Rashford. I dare to say his numbers will be up there again this season, and especially when you're linking up with Cristiano Ronaldo and learning from him, and you're linking up with Bruno and Greenwood, Sancho, like his numbers are going to be up there, and the pressure is not as much as on him as it was 2 years ago when we didn't have any of these attacking players. So Rashford's going to be able to play with that bit more freedom, and though he knows, though he's not the only focal point in the team, so he's definitely going to be a boost. And look, when we're playing against Liverpool and Manchester City, his goal scoring record against both is quite good. Like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kyle Walker have had nightmares against Marcus Rashford on more than one occasion. So he knows he has the beating of them too. So if Marcus Rashford can come back in these next few weeks and start delivering, that's going to be a welcome boost, because it also takes the pressure off Jadon Sancho, who, look, I thought when he came off the bench on the weekend, he was quite good. He really showed what he could do in terms of beating a man, being direct. We're just missing that end product. But as I touched on before about Sancho, he takes a couple of months to get going. Like, you look at his Dortmund career, that's when he gets going, is kind of like the October, November period. Then by Christmas, his numbers really start picking up. You look at his link up at Haaland last year, that's how that happened. So I think that'll be the same with Jadon this year. He will start picking up. And look, when you have his England teammate and Rashford there who can help him with that adjustment period, I think that's, it's going to benefit us in the long run. And look, hopefully we can just find that perfect blend in midfield and to start sustaining attacks, because that's what we need to do. And we have all them forward players, as Lee said. There's absolutely no excuse for not doing it. So hopefully we can get it right in these next couple of weeks, because it is season beginning and we can't kind of rest ourselves. We do need to push forward now, because like this run of fixtures, you can forget about a league title and you're in a battle for the top 4. Like, you're in a battle because you have like Liverpool, Chelsea there who will be in the round there. If you drop points, you have the likes of the Tottenhams sniffing around you. You will have the likes of Leicester, you'll have them sniffing around you. You can dare say, like, these last couple of weeks, Arsenal are starting to pick up form again. They'll be in there on the top 6. So we need to get this right in this next couple of weeks. There's no room for error. Considering we had a favourable fixture list and we're still in the round, we're 2 points off top, we probably could have got a bit more out of that. So this next 4 to 6 week period is so crucial to our season, because we don't want to be coming into this Christmas period playing catch up, because that's one of the most demanding periods of the season. We need to be thereabouts. We can't be playing catch up. That's the last thing we need, especially going into that period of time. Look, this is where we wait and see. This is where we see where Manchester United will really stand up and be counted. And as Lee said previously, like, we're Man United, we should be going out looking to win all these games. And look, if they don't do that, then look, we're only the victims of our own downfall. Like, that's essentially what will happen if we don't put in our 100%. But look, let's see how that pans out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll dive into more of these games in terms of tactical breakdown and stuff like that on the podcast next week as well, building up to the Leicester game. But as the thumbnail says, we're here to talk Phil and these all-time Manchester United 11s at the football club. Now, I threw a little twist at the 2 lads this evening. I texted them today about 2:30 today. I didn't really give them much notice, but I sincerely do apologise with regards to this, throwing this curveball at them with a couple of hours to go. But we're going to get them to pick their all-time United 11. But the one twist is you can't have a player from the same nation in the starting 11. So I'm very intrigued to hear the lads' 11s. I've heard 1 or 2 players that are in their 11s. What we will do is I'm going to send these teams on to Wayne. Wayne's going to post them up on our Twitter page and on to Talk the Devils. And what we'll do is all 3 of our teams, we're going to have a little poll. And the viewers, you can decide which team would win in a game of football between Lee's, Phil's, and myself. we'll see who your favorite team is by come the end of the podcast. So do drop it in the comments as well, guys, who your favorite team is. And if you make any changes to either one of our 3 of our 11s, do let us know. But Lee, I'm going to come to you first. Give me your goalkeeper, first of all.
Thanks for coming to me first, Keane, so I can't rob any of your answers, mate. I appreciate that. Right, goalkeeper, Schmeichel.
Peter Schmeichel in goal. So you have the Great Dane, Peter Schmeichel in goal. And Phil, I'm going to get your goalkeeper now. Give me your goalkeeper from your team.
Yeah, I've gone the same. Big Peter Schmeichel, yeah, the Dane.
So both Phil and Lee have gone Peter Schmeichel in the goalkeeping position. And for me, I thought one of you was going to go one of Schmeichel and Van der Sar. I thought both of you were going to go for the both of them. And I threw in a curveball of David De Gea just in case you picked one of each. But okay, both of you picked Schmeichel. I'll pick Schmeichel as well. I'll put Schmeichel in my 11 just on the basis of both of you picked him. I thought one of you was going to pick Van der Sar. I was convinced Phil was going to pick him. I had it in my mind all day.
I didn't pick De Gea. I was like that whether to go De Gea, to be honest with you.
Keane, you know that who my best player is for United. I couldn't have gone Van der Sar. My hero's front, and he's the same nation, so I can't leave him out.
Yeah, I had it in my head today. I was like, Phil was in the club around that time. Van der Sar, when Van der Sar was really transforming, then I was like,
yeah, I mean, he's a very good keeper. Don't get me wrong. Probably the second, the second choice that I've had after Schmeichel, but yeah, unfortunately, just because of the player who I've picked up front, he didn't make the cut, unfortunately.
Yeah, look, great goalkeeper. I was going to throw it in there for my David De Gea show. If you look at that 5-year period from 2013 post Ferguson to 2018, he kept. I'm going to go out there and say it. I believe he kept Manchester United relevant in that time. Like the Player of the Year awards, the games he saved us in, like he picked us up to 15 to 20 points a season in game saving moments. So David De Gea definitely deserves a shout. But look, if you're looking at all time United goalkeepers, Peter Schmeichel, he does stand out. Like he was commanding. He was great. He was good with his feet. Did chip in with a couple of goals as well. Great shot stopper. So look, he had everything for a goalkeeper, and he was a great leader as well in the dressing room. So what more could you want from a Man United goalkeeper? And I'm going to go with the right back. I'm going to twist it around to myself now for the right back. Obviously, I kept my Gary Neville. If we had no rule, Gary Neville is my right back all day long and twice on Sundays. But I've gone with a friend of the podcast from my right back with this rule. I'm gone Rafael De Silva at right back for myself. Look, cult hero at Manchester United, without doubt. Someone who in the big games really did put in 100%. And look, I said it on Twitter, that goal at Anfield, my God, that was one of the best finishes I've seen from a Man United defender, and especially the fact it was away at Anfield. Unbelievable strike. So maybe it's recency bias on my part, especially this rule I put Rafael in, but 100% he gets into this team under this rule. Phil, going to come to you. Who was your right back in this level?
Yeah, so I thought about Rafael. Obviously Gary Neville would have been my, I think when I did my all-time 11 a couple of weeks ago when this stipulation was in, Gary Neville was a shoe-in for that position. But obviously trying to, look at different positions, I've gone for Antonio Valencia. I just think, he's been at the club for, a long period of time. I thought he was, he converted really into a right back after, few years of playing on the wing or whatever, and I just thought he did a great job in that period when we never really had a sort of nailed down right back, and I just think he's sort of work ethic and sort of the way he was as a player. I used to love his energy, and he scored some belting goals. I think he scored an absolute worldie against Everton at Old Trafford.
Oh yeah,
I remember.
I was behind the goal that day. Unbelievable strike.
Yeah. So for me, he just sort of got the nod in my team just because obviously, and he's from Ecuador, so I wasn't worried about anyone else coming from Ecuador, if you like, in this team. Yeah,
look, Valencia was a great choice, and one thing I loved about him was his versatility. Like, especially if you look at his early years at Man United, especially look at 2010, he was that flying winger. Don't remember him and Wayne Rooney's partnership in 2010. I can't recall how many like crosses from Valencia went in. Wayne Rooney got in his head. I got so many important goals that season. I know we came close to win the league, but in that League Cup run, Valencia and Rooney's partnership that year was vital to our success. Great shout, like, and how like Van Gaal and Mourinho, I suppose, like converted him into a right back. He became a very good defender. Like, he wasn't just like kind of an attacking right back. He became a very good defender at the football club. So look, someone who, again, former club captain as well. So great shout, Phil. I thought Raphael was going to be a right back, but he threw a curveball at me there at Valencia. So look, we excited to see what the rest of the teams are. Lee, who's your right back in your team? Do you have anything different to myself and Phil?
Well, first of all, mate, the first piece of paper I wrote down was Neville. Always going to be Gary Neville at right back. Fortunately for me, he's not the best English player I could have picked, so I scrubbed him off. I also, on the second piece of paper, this is not a word of a lie, had Rafael da Silva. And then I thought, nah, being a Wigan boy and supporting Wigan growing up when I was a kid also with United, I could only choose one right back, mate, and it's the same as Phil, 2 from 2. Valencia, Ecuadorian. One for me,
absolutely.
Fantastic right back, mate. Yeah, and there was, like I say, bit of hometown pride being from Wigan, like I say. So he's my right back too.
Not a bad shout, to be fair. And look, again, he was someone who he went from flying winger to a very good defensively astute right back, and again, it just showed his character to kind of do that. And especially when you look at it as well, when he came back from that leg break in 2011, and he came back after that Rangers game, and he looked like he didn't miss a beat, really. He helped us get to that Champions League final. He was very vital in them 2 games against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge and at Old Trafford as well. And look, again, someone who, like, when you look at that time when we replaced Cristiano in 2009, like, we signed Overton, Michael Owen, and Valencia, he was the standout of the 3, 100%. And look, he's someone who stayed in that side consistently for a decade, in that time frame. So, like, look, someone who, when you look at the transfer fee we paid for him at the time, we got every penny out of him and then some. So definitely a great shout from the 2 lads, Antonio Valencia at right back. Phil, I'm going to come to you below for your centre back pairing. Give me your pairing for this team.
Yeah, so I've stuck with my pairing from the team that I picked even when there was no stipulation. So I've gone for Vidic and Ferdinand. Just think, in terms of the chemistry between them two, one was, coming out with the ball, playing balls, pace and all that. And the other was just an absolute animal, a warrior. And I think, the partnership they had for, that period of time at United when we were so successful, I think there was an integral part of that. And I just think, I couldn't really pick one without the other in terms of at the back in that centre-half position. So, yeah, Ferdinand and Vidic for me.
The Rolls-Royce partnership with centre-back. Do you know what? I was tempted to go that myself, but my English player is further up the pitch. Like, Ferdinand was a Rolls-Royce centre-back. Vidic was he was just an absolute machine. He was like the Terminator at centre-back. He really was. But yeah, great partnership. And look, I suppose I'm showing my age. Like, I grew up through Ferdinand and Vidic. Like, watching them to a centre-back. Like, so they were like just unbelievable to watch. Like, if you look at probably in the last 20 years in the Premier League, if you're going from that, like, in terms of best centre-backs, himself, like Rio, Vidic, Sean Terry, players like that who were all just all great centre-backs. And he couldn't split much between any of them. In that era, like, the Premier League has had so many great centre-backs, but for Manchester United to have 2 of them at the same time, like, in terms of like nearly level ability, that was unbelievable. They complement each other so well. So yeah, look, 100% great centre-back pairing. I'm very intrigued to see we have a midfield now or a front because the English there is gone. So we'll be excited to see that later on the podcast. And Lee, give me your centre-back pairing.
It was very, very close to being the same to Phil, to be honest. But again, not for me, for the English players. So I like a hard tackling, no nonsense, big, hard centre-backs. Just my type of player, that's what I like. I weren't the biggest me, but I did like a challenge when I used to play for United. So again, I've gone Vidic, absolute monster. And I know, obviously, Phil's chose a different Dutch player than me, but I couldn't see past Stam. I had to have Stam in there too, so I've gone Vidic and Stam.
And you know what, Lee? I have the exact same partnership. I have the exact same one. Vidic and Yapstam. If you're talking about tackling, if you're talking about winning the ball in the air, if you're talking about no nonsense, these two lads are centre back. I don't think anyone's dribbling past the two of them, to be quite honest. Not unless you have a prime Fernando Torres against Vidic. That may be the only time that happens. But I think when you look at that centre back pairing, absolute no nonsense, two leaders, two absolute machines. I would not like to dribble near the two of them. They'd absolutely murder you. They'd get you out of the way, and that'd be it. Like, do you know? Phil has had the pleasure of playing with Nemanja Vidic. I'd say, Phil, that was on the training pitch every day at Carrington. I'd say that was a tough task every day.
Yeah, I mean, I told the story there a couple of months ago about when I first seen him playing, and he had an absolute stinker. But that was in the reserves against Wigan. We got battered 4-0. But after that, I mean, you know, what a player he was. And, you know, once he found his feet, and obviously a couple of times I played against him in training, and it weren't nice. You know, he's physical. You know, he doesn't give you any time on the ball. You know, he's aggressive in his defending, which is, you know, what you want to have in your team. You want players who are going to, you know, put the body on the line, and he was the epitome of that. And, you know, obviously for that, he went down as a club legend, and, you know, he'd probably tell you himself technically, and, you know, he probably wasn't the best player, but in terms of that determination and will to win and desire and, you know, to do anything to, you know, keep a clean sheet. He was, you know, somebody you'd love to have in your side, and he was a, you know, great person as well. You know, a very nice, humble person, and, you know, a very, you know, classy defender for me. You know, someone you'd want in your team.
Yeah, 100%. And he literally like bleeded Manchester United. The amount of times you see him, you know, he'd have a like bandage around his head, blood coming out of his eye. Like so many different times you've seen Nemanja Vidic just use his body and soul for the shirt. And something I think we're kind of, if you look at the centre back pairing that we have had then, and we're getting close to that now, hopefully with Maguire and Varane. I'm hoping them two can kind of not replicate, because I don't think any centre back pairing now could probably be as good as them, but hopefully we get something close enough with them two, because they have kind of similar traits, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have the same centre back pairing as Lee, with Stam and Nemanja Vidic, Serbia and Holland. And so we still have our English players too, get to in this team. Left back, I kind of have a feeling we might have all the same left back, but it could be wrong. I'm going to go first. I have Patrice Evra at left back. He's my French player. I was going to put King Eric up there, but the only reason I didn't is I haven't seen him play live. So I would be cheating if I put Eric up there. So I went with Patrice Evra at left back for my defender. Lee, who is your left back?
Well, Patrice is, for me, the best left back since this person who's been at the club. My absolute hero growing up is Dennis Irwin. It was my idol. I couldn't not have had Dennis Irwin. I was a left back. Kind of watched videos of him, tried to copy his trade. Unsung hero for Man United, absolute legend. Went about his business quietly. Very effective player. It was hard to choose an Irish player for me, because obviously I've lost Keane now. But I could not have chosen my all-time 11 without choosing Dennis Irwin.
Yeah, look, he was Mr. Consistent at Manchester United. And look, again, like when you look at Irish players coming out of United, we always had that great link with kind of players coming out. Obviously, you have Keane, Irwin, Moore, and like players like that, Paul McGrath. Dennis Irwin, like he could right foot, left foot, free kicks, penalties, like he could literally do everything. And imagine what a player of Dennis Irwin's build could be worth now in this day and age. You're talking about defenders going for £100 million. He would be that. You're talking about defenders like Van Dijk and that going for 75, Harry Maguire for 80. Dennis Irwin would absolutely be up there because he was the complete defender. Like if you look at attributes for a defender, he was the complete player. And happy to say, fellow countryman as well. So Dennis Irwin, what a player, model professional, and someone who is at times probably an unsung hero at Manchester United and deserves more recognition. Phil, do you have anything different to myself or Lee?
No, I've got the same as one of you. the same as Lee. I think Dennis Irwin for me was. I think I picked him in my all-time team a couple of weeks ago. Again, when there was no stipulations. But yeah, for me, again, such an unsung hero. Scored loads of important goals. Was versatile, could play anywhere really. But was a fantastic professional. And for me, he was somebody who I was a sort of a nailed on for that position. Obviously, Roy Keane was a massive part of my journey at Man United and would have been somebody who I would have loved to have picked in my team. But I just think Dennis Irwin in that position for me just sort of shaded Patrice Evra, which was your choice. But yeah, I've gone for Dennis. I think he's a amazing player who sort of doesn't really get as many plaudits as maybe he should do, because he was so consistent and an integral part of the group through that period.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I seen when the caps were being given, like I was looking at like Ireland's international social media page, and the adulation that he gets over here is unbelievable. And they were giving out all the caps for kind of all of our players, and Dennis was there. And someone who I think, if you look at like this era of football now, and you look at like sports science, and you look at all these different things, how players be fit and how players always have to be adaptable and the game ever evolving. I think he'd thrive in this day and age, like with sports science and all these little different things in the game. I'd say he could start right back, left back, centre half, wherever. Like he would be someone I think definitely would thrive in today's game, and someone who, look, if you ever wanted to, he'd probably be taking the ball off Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo for the penalty spot. If I know we're having this debate there last week on who gets that ball at the penalty spot between Bruno and Ronaldo, I think Dennis Irwin comes over, takes the ball off the two of them, and yeah, I think he steps up for the penalty spot if he was at Man United's left back now. What do you reckon, lads?
100%. I'd have him on penalties all day long. I wouldn't trust anyone else. If he was in the team, he'd be my captain all day long of any team, and he'd be my penalty taker all day long. I'm free kick taker, to be honest. So,
Phil, do you think as well he'd be penalty taker as well if he was playing for us now?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't back against him. I think he was a fantastic set piece taker, but I think obviously Cristiano Ronaldo being the way he is, and I think the next penalty that gets up for grabs now, he's just going to grab the ball and sort of take precedent now. And I think his record is fantastic, and a lot of his goals have come from the penalty spots and pressure situations. So I would have Cristiano Ronaldo. I always believe that your centre forwards should be the ones that step up for the penalties, because they're the ones that are used to sticking the ball on the back of the net. But that's no disrespect to Dennis and other players that play in defence who take penalties, because he was a fantastic set piece taker, and his record was phenomenal. So, but yeah, I'd have gone for Ronaldo, and because he was my captain in my fantasy footy as well. So I need some points.
Have to get that fantasy plug in there.
Yeah.
Boyer never losing. What a name. What a name. We've all gone, we actually never addressed it with all our formations. We've all gone with a classic 4-4-2. So we're going to have 4-man midfield, obviously 2 strikers up front. I'm going to go first with my right winger. I have been debating this choice all day. I went with someone who's shoehorned into the right wing early on. Well, not early on, but before Cristiano signed for the club. Former teammate of you both, and our manager at this moment in time. I've gone with Ollie on the right, and played a lot of great games on the right-hand side. I was going to put Kanchelskis there. He was originally down, but I had to show my man and Solskjaer support. Had to get him into the team. Great goal threat as well. Could always beat a player, and he's like a fox in the box as well. So for me, gonna go Ollie on the right. I'm shoehorning him into the team. I know I've criticised managers in the past for shoehorning players, but this is my team. You can shout #Keane out on Twitter if you want. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer get into my team on the right wing in my 4-4-2. Lee, who is your right winger?
Well, I did have Kunchelskis, to be honest with you. But I have changed my mind and I've gone with Northern Ireland's George Best.
George Best. So I've gone with Ollie. Lee has gone with George Best. Phil, who is your right winger?
I've gone for Cristiano Ronaldo. Just because, obviously, you know, unbelievable talent when he first comes to the club. You know, maybe did a little bit too much in the early days, but then once, you know, did the work with Rennie Mullenstein and sort of adapted his game and sort of hit the levels that, you know, we've seen over the last 10 years, he was ridiculous, unplayable. And I think, you know, he's somebody who I would always have in my Manchester United team, all-time 11 or whatever it would be. He's got to be in my team. And I think, you know, on the right-hand side, there's nobody better on the day than him. So, yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo in there for me.
Yeah, Cristiano, George Best, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, all three great United players. For me, I'm just clearing the air. All my team is Premier League era. I've went to all players I've seen, so I was going to use George Best, but I couldn't because, again, I've never seen him play, and I feel like myself, I couldn't do it. I based on players all I've seen throughout my life, but my team is probably going to get peppered off the two lads. But look, so be it. What I said, my team is going to be the most hardworking out of out of the three lads. My team's going to be the most hardworking. You might have the superstars. Going to go for central midfield pairing now. This is where I think this is going to differ because we've all had different players in different positions. Phil, I'm going to come down to you with your central midfield pairing. You've obviously used Rio as your English player. So I think that obviously eliminates Paul Scholes from your team. I'm interested in who's your
Yeah. So this was probably the most difficult, and I think this is probably the weakest area of my team. No disrespect to the two lads, by the way, who I've picked, because they're both fantastic players in their own right, but just because of the mechanics of my team and where I obviously chose to pick the other international players, I was limited really in the players that I could have in this position, obviously with the other positions that I've not mentioned yet as well. So I've gone for Park Ji-sung in the middle, just because I think, you know, he was another one unsung hero. I think he was a fantastic player. You know, he was trusted by Sir Alex Ferguson in a lot of the bigger games to do a job in there against, you know, Barcelona and Messi, etc. But not only that, he cropped up with a lot of goals. He was a fantastic team player. I think if you hear a few of the other former teammates of his, you know, he was a massive part of the success, not just because of, you know, his work rate. He was actually a technically, and, you know, he was a gifted player. So for me, I've put Park in there just for some legs and some energy, and I've put him alongside somebody else who, you know, didn't really have the longevity of a career at Manchester United, but whilst I was there, I watched him a few times and I thought, you know, he's an unbelievable player. Juan Sebastian Veron, another player who maybe didn't hit the heights, you know, he could have done at Manchester United, but, you know, on his day, what a player he was. And, you know, a bit of a sort of variety in the midfield, creativity with Veron and the passing range, and obviously Park, who would, you know, break the play up and get around and sort of do all the sort of stuff that you don't want to do on a football field, which is, you know, win the ball back, work hard. But I thought them two would have a bit of good chemistry together, and it's something a bit different. So yeah, I went for them too.
I should have kept Phil for last. He threw an absolute curveball that is there with Park Ji-sung and Juan Sebastian Veron, but I think that's a nice blend though. You have obviously Veron passing range and creativity, and like Park's engine in midfield. Like, look again, if you want to look at a game where Andre Pirlo gets absolutely shut out, Park Ji-sung made him look ordinary over two legs in the Champions League. My word. And then his performance in the Nou Camp in the semi-final as well in the Champions League, that was unbelievable. He man-marked Messi out of the game. Like, he was someone who Sir Alex could rely on in the big games. Chelsea in 2011 at Old Trafford as well. His performance that day was top class. Chelsea again in the league. He got the assist for Javi Hernandez after 36 seconds in the game. Like Park Ji-sung, unsung hero and someone who always worked hard and always really wore his heart in his sleeve and was that vital part in the squad where, yes, we talk about all these superstars like your Ronaldos, your Rooney's, all these players who were in the team at that time who were fantastic players, don't get me wrong. Ji-sung Park was a very important part of that squad 2018. That season, he was a very important part. And you look at them big games, such a reliable figure and someone who you need a Ji-sung Park in your squad if you're going to win a title. If you're going to win a title, you need a player like that who's going to be that Mr. Reliable, over your 38 games and whatever so many games you play in domestic cup or in Europe. So great shout, and I'm very interested now to hear these two midfielders because we've just got you've got the curveball of Park and Varane. Lee has an English player, I believe, in midfield. I may be wrong, but Lee, who chose your two central midfield players?
Before I get on to my first shout, Phil, with Varane, just thought I'd share a little bit of my experience with him. When I ever trained with the first team, like Phil said, he didn't really hit it on the, with the first team over the years. He didn't show his true potential. I remember training quite a few times with him and being absolutely astounded by what he could do on the training field. He was magic, absolute magic. Such a shame he didn't really show it off, playing for England, but that's a great shout for Varane. One I didn't think of, to be fair, Phil, so well done. Okay, so I've obviously still got my English player, and this was the English player I was always going to use. It was going to have to be Paul Scholes. Another one who I've got experience training with and playing the odd few friendlies with. Absolute monster. Like you probably find with my team, I like strong tacklers. I like that kind of old school, no nonsense, put your foot in, play for the badge kind of guy. For me, there was no better in the modern game than Paul Scholes. You hear a lot of ex-pros, people you'd actually say, was or have been the best in the world, who'll still say that Paul Scholes was better than them. So for me, there was only one English player you'd get in there. That would be Paul Scholes. So that's my English player out the way. This next one might come to a bit of a surprise, but I was running out of people to pick. But it come to me. Someone who me and Phil have had many, many dealings with in the past, I'm sure. I've had a few bollockings off him over the years. My ex-manager, Chucky, Brian McClure, Scotland, got to get a Scottish guy in there. Absolute phenomenal player in his time. Great guy, great manager. Like I say, got to know him on a personal level. Really, really top guy. And for me, the best of what I had left was Brian McClure. So yeah, I've got him in there.
Scholes, Brian McClure, Park, and Varane. These midfield battles would be very interesting. I would absolutely love to see him. It would be, just Titans in midfield. It would be unbelievable. I've gone. Look, I think everyone knows who my Irish player is. And here is Roy Keane. Look, I was named after him. My namesake. Just what a player, what a professional. Had everything as a midfielder. Great leader, and look, someone who could go out there and really drag a team through a game of football. Like, there's that individual performance against Juventus, games against Arsenal, his battles with Vieira and midfield. He was just an absolute icon and someone who, look, he epitomised the manager on the pitch. He was someone who kind of mirrored Sir Alex when he was on the football pitch. So Roy Keane for me in midfield. I've gone with Giggsy and beside him in the middle. He's obviously did play in central midfield towards obviously the latter years, of his United career. Obviously his early days as a winger, but I've gone with Giggs in midfield. I think he'd work really hard. He'd blend well with Roy Keane in there. Obviously he has a fair bit of creativity, great passing range, can beat a player. So I've gone with Giggsy and I've gone with Roy Keane in the middle. I think they would complement each other very well. And it frees up, obviously, my left-hand side. I think we all know who my left-sided midfielder is. But we're going to get to that straight away. Phil, give us your left midfielder.
You've just been speaking about him, Ryan Giggs. For me, probably one of the best players the club's ever had in terms of longevity, the amount of trophies he's won, and obviously got to know Ryan as on a personal level through my time at the club. A really nice guy, humble, and what a player he was. In his early days, he was a absolute joy to watch. Flying winger, beating players for fun, scoring loads of goals, assists, and for me, testament to him. He kept himself fit and managed to play up until nearly 40, which shows how much love he has for the game, and obviously the will to keep playing for as long as he did, and at the level he did, and adapted his game, as you said there, and could play in the midfield, and was still one of the best players week in, week out. So yeah, Ryan Giggs for me on the left hand side.
Yeah, look, Ryan Giggs, most decorated player in English football history, someone who, again, showed versatility, his adaptability to the game, and look, someone who has his colours in English football widely respected. And as I said, you got to know him on a personal level, and that's obviously great to see. We've actually a question for both of you about Ryan Giggs just before we get Lee's left midfielder here as well. Reese says, question for Phil and Lee. Did Ryan Giggs give you any words of advice on your game or living as a footballer, like advice you've never forgotten? I'll come to you first, Lee, of that.
No. No, I didn't. Ryan Giggs, believe it or not, was one of the guys who was, when you turned 16, you had to go and play. I think Phil would have done this too, because like I say, he was 2 years younger than me at United, weren't you, Phil?
Yeah.
When you signed your YTS at 16, you actually got put into the first team dressing room, and they played what was called fun and games with you, where they literally just destroyed the whole YTS lads for a couple of hours. The likes of David May and Ryan Giggs in particular was the main culprits, what used to absolutely ruin us. So no, he didn't give us any words of advice, but it made me do a few things in the first team changing room, which I'll never ever forget in a hurry. Put it one way.
Phil, did you have any encounters with Ryan Giggs, anything on the training pitch, anything that helped you in your career?
Yeah. I mean, I actually got on quite well with Giggs, and I think he had a bit of a soft spot for rugby league, and I actually come from St Helens, which is a rugby league town. So we actually got talking about rugby league, and then ended up getting a little bit of a relationship, if you like. And he was always somebody who I managed to sort of pick his brains and just ask him on certain things. As an attacking player, obviously Giggs played on the left. I was more of a up front or a right hand sided player, but just because of the way he was and sort of the legend status that he had at that time, I was always intrigued to wonder how he got to the levels that he did. And he was always forthcoming with myself personally. He might not have been with everybody or other players who spoke to him, but I had a few times where I've asked him just for opinions or just little bits of advice, and he was always forthcoming with me personally. So yeah, just little tips and little bits of advice maybe that you think you take for granted, but he just was one of the best at it, and sort of did it for X amount of years. So yeah, always nice to speak to players like that, and Ryan was a really nice guy in that respect.
Yeah, 100%. And I say there's no better person, especially like the way he looked after himself. Like football quality aside, the way Ryan Giggs looked after his body in terms of how he stayed on like for so long. Like he was mad into his yoga and stuff like that. I heard Roy Keane saying that when talking to Gary Neville, that Ryan Giggs was mad into his yoga, and that's how he kept his body so well. Look, the way footballers do it nowadays is it's absolutely mad. Lee, can I get your net midfielder?
Yeah, no surprises, mate. We've been on about him for the last 10 minutes. Ryan Giggs. There was no other left winger for me. I'll be calling him left winger in the old days. No other left-sided player for me touches him at United. I think he was, like I say, we've just basically summed him up, haven't we? He was like I say, Phil had the relationship with him where he gave him a lot of advice. I'm sure a lot of other young lads who asked for his advice would give it him. He'll give it, he'd give them the right tools to do what they need to do. I personally always found, believe it or not, that Ollie gave the best advice. Like I say, I think we talked about it on the last show. I had quite a few months out while he was out with injury on the the injury table, and we had some nice conversations. And he was always talking about when you grow up, how to handle yourself. And to me, it's no surprise that he become a manager because he was always helping the young guys out. Always had a word of advice. So yeah, personally, on a personal level, I seem to get a lot more help of the lads which was injured when I was, like you say, which was the likes of Ollie. But again, going back to that left wing position, for me, Ryan Giggs all day long, mate. The best in the business, especially when he was younger. Obviously, he did have a few injury worries growing up, but he seemed to overcome them. Very versatile. I can't really add anything else onto what you guys have said. Absolutely majestic on the left side. So yeah, it had to be Ryan Giggs, mate.
Yeah, 100%. He was getting into all three of our teams, regardless of opposition. He was definitely getting in 100%. Now, we're obviously gone 4-4-2. My guy's just going to play off the front because obviously I have my striker up front. This guy's going to play off the front because I think at United, he had his best probably terms at United here. I'm going Wayne Rooney. He's my English player. United's all-time top goal scorer. I have Wayne Rooney just off the front. Look, majestic street footballer. An honorary Mancunian. Do you know what I mean? It's great though that Wayne Rooney. I grew up watching him and seeing how he adapted his game from that raw number 9 to number 10 to a central midfield player. He played on the left, played on the right. He really sacrificed himself for Manchester United as a footballer. He could do absolutely everything. And look, when you have that many goals and he broke Sir Bobby's record, I think for me, he has to get into my team because I grew up on him and Ronaldo. They were my two favourites growing up watching Manchester United. And look, them two were just majestic. And I'd have to get the two of them in the same team. I was torn on Scholes because obviously Scholes' range of passing and look, going to Old Trafford and watching him live, every time he got the ball, whether it's 30 yards outside the box or sitting deep in midfield, everyone in Old Trafford, like, they're on their feet because they know what he was going to do. He was going to pick a pass, or he make a great tackle, or he'd shoot from range like Paul Scholes and everything. But Wayne Rooney for me just gets in here just because his overall goal scoring record and his contribution to United is a fantastic footballer. And so he's just going to play off the front for my other striker, who obviously I had to think about nationalities and I had to think about who's left in terms of my nations, because I obviously picked Evra. King Eric was out. So I've gone with Dwight York, Trinidad and Tobago up front. Obviously, part of one of the best combinations in Manchester United history in Cole and York. I just went to Dwight York. His goal scoring record, 99, unbelievable. Great signing from Aston Villa, and someone who was an important part of the front four in 99 when you had Cole, York, Sheringham and Ollie, who all great players and who contributed. So I think a combination of Rooney and Dwight York with their movement and their intelligence up front and their hard work would work quite well. And I think with my wingers, with Ollie and Ronaldo bombing up and down, I think my team would work well. We've a comment in from Reese. Yeah, look, my man Eddie Cavani is probably going to be ringing me later on and giving out to me for not putting him in the team, because every time I'm over in Manchester, I'm singing his song like no tomorrow. But Dwight York, he has to get in all day for me, especially with this rule. He was my striker. Lee, who is your two forwards?
Okay, so obviously I mentioned Patrice Evra earlier, and he would have been my second choice left back. But one of the main reasons, again, I didn't choose him. The first one was Dennis Irwin's my hero. The second one was you can't leave Eric Cantona out of an all-time 11. So I've gone for Eric Cantona up front. Again, growing up, he was one of the guys who was, he was the Ronaldo of his day. He could do anything with a football. The goals he scored, he could score a goal from anywhere on the pitch. The arrogance he played with, the flair. He's one of them players when you watch him, or you go and watch a team. You can go and watch the team just for him. He'd be, be one of them guys who, you'd be mesmerised for the full 90 minutes with. I couldn't leave him out of an United or 11, so I've gone with Eric Cantona for my first striker.
And who would be his partner up front?
Well, he didn't play up front the first time he was here. Phil's already picked him. He played on the wing, and he was he's grown to be one of, if not the best footballers in the world to ever grace a pitch. He's back now, gracing us again in a different position. It was between him and Best for me on the wing, but I didn't know how to leave George Best out. Obviously, I've watched millions of videos growing up, being a United supporter, but there was just no way you could leave Cristiano Ronaldo out of any modern day side. So I've gone for Cantona up front with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, my team is getting battered. Oh. My team is getting absolutely slaughtered. Oh my god, that's some front too. To be fair, like Cantona playing off Ronaldo. Oh my god, that's filth. Absolute filth. Phil, do you have anything different to myself and Lee?
Yeah, so slightly. I mean, I left out Patrice as well for Dennis Irwin for this other reason, what like Lee did. I left him out of my all-time 11, which I felt really bad for. But yeah, I've gone for Eric Cantona. I just think, Lee's just probably summed it up there. The sort of arrogance that he played with, the sort of charisma he had on the pitch was just breathtaking. And I think, he was such an iconic figure in that era for United. I think, he's somebody who, could win a game all by himself at any given moment. And, to have someone like that playing in your team, he has the X factor. And I think, he's somebody who would, be a shoe-in really for anybody in an all-time United 11. So I put him in there alongside my main man, who I absolutely adore and love, Ruud van Nistelrooy, my probably favourite player ever at the club, just because obviously when I was there, he was the main striker. Used to do shooting drills with him. Such a nice guy, honestly, like one of the nicest guys I've ever met in football. But what a player! I mean, if we're talking about finishing, there's probably nobody better I've seen live. And I used to go to Old Trafford every week and watch him because he was playing in my position. And what an unbelievable finisher he was! Clinical, somebody who scored, all types of goals, but what a predator, and for me probably one of United's all-time greatest ever strikers, and for me he was somebody I had to have in my team, which was the reason why I had to sort of fiddle a few other positions around. Obviously Jaap Stam would have been maybe a position with Vidic, but yeah, I wanted to get Ruud in there because I can't speak highly enough of him, and sort of I think he's probably somebody who, if you wanted to score 25, 30 goals every season, it would be your man who you'd sign if you could pick anyone in world football when he was in his prime. There's not many, better than him.
Ruud was someone who I think, when you look at the goal scoring record he has at United, it's unbelievable. It's a shame he didn't win the Champions League at all. I think that's the one thing I always look at. He deserved the Champions League title at Man United. Like when you look at the contribution he did and the amount of goals he scored in every competition for us, including the Champions League, he scored a lot of Champions League goals. For me, it's an injustice that he doesn't have a Champions League medal with United. But again, he had those league titles and FA Cups, League Cups. Scored a lot of goals in Europe to help us get far. So someone who gilt-edged finisher and someone who you could just rely on from the spot, headers. He's just always getting that right position at the right time. And you look at modern day strikers now, like you look at the way Mason would play up front now for us. Like imagine if you had Ruud up there. Imagine Mason learning from someone like Ruud. He could become that complete forward. But yeah, Ruud van Nistelrooy, what a Manchester United great, and someone who was just a fantastic footballer. And the shame maybe he left when he did at the time in 2006, because we were coming towards a time where we did win a lot of trophies still prior to that. But look, again, model professional, great finisher, and I've spoke to you, Phil, on and off camera about Ruud, in terms of how hard he worked in his finishing on the training pitch. He made it look easy in the games. He really did make it look easy, and he did always wind Arsenal up as well. at the best of times. But yeah, they are our all-time United 11s. We can only pick player from one nation. I think when you look at it, I'll be honest, the two boys I probably picked all my players too early in terms of my defenders and stuff like that, because looking at their forward lines, I think they put my team to bed. I really do think they do. But we will drop the teams on the Talk of Devils Twitter page, and you guys can decide which team does come out on top. So what we do is we have 3 teams, and where's the top 2, we do a final poll, then, and we see which team was your favorite. Outside of that, but we will be back next week on Talking Devils. We'll be previewing the Leicester game next Friday, obviously leading up to the international break. That's a massive game for Manchester United. And look, we'll also be talking our Reds during the international break as well, because we have a lot of players playing big games. Because on Sunday, we have the Nations League final between France and Spain. We will have a Manchester United player win the trophy this weekend. With Martial, David De Gea, Paul Pogba, Raphael Varane, all playing this weekend in the final. So best luck to all of them as well. They'll be come back after winning the trophy this weekend. And so looking forward to that. But also make sure to check out our YouTube channel. Drop below Phil, hit that subscribe button on Talk the Devils. All the match day content there as well. All the scenes from Old Trafford. Great views there. Wayne does fantastic videos there. So do check that out as well. Also check out our website, www.talkofdevils.co.uk. All the latest articles, also archives as well from the past as well. Very interesting pictures and articles there. So do check that out as well. But as always, do subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. We will be back next Friday. And as always, we'll see you there.